and welcome to this episode of ArtsAbly in Conversation. My name is Diane Collin. This series presents artists, academics, and project leaders who dedicate their time and energy to a better accessibility for people with disabilities in the arts. You can find more of these conversations on our website, artsably.com, which is spelled ArtsAbly.com. Today, ArtsAbly is in conversation with Clint Warren, a composer, a guitarist, a singer-songwriter, and a producer living in Cleveland in Ohio. You can find the resources mentioned by Clint Warren during this episode on ArtsAbly's website in the blog section.
Take you off your feet and get ready to grab a seat now and take a step back and let your worries subside. Take it easy, take it easy. Oh, you got to slow it down now. Take it easy, cause life's not so serious, no. Why don't you take some advice and listen to these words I've written for you? Smoke some ganja and then unwind. And take a step back and let your worries subside.
Welcome to this new episode of ArtsAbly in Conversation. Today, I am with Clint Warren, who is a composer, a guitarist, a singer-songwriter, and a producer living in Cleveland in Ohio.
Yes.
Clint, welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, so I know you have a long career in reggae and rock and intersectional work that we're going to talk about. But before talking about your musical world today, I would like to know a bit about you. So would you mind presenting yourself and talking a bit about your background, where you come from, where you grew up? Thank you.
Yes, sure. So at the moment, I'm a reggae solo artist, but I started off as a child. If you can detect an accent, I'm from South Africa originally. So I moved to the States when I was about 10, but in South Africa, I was the host of a kids TV show. It was like a pop culture sort of show. It was called Zap Mag, and we would have famous musicians come on, like one of the most famous reggae artists in Africa's history, Lucky Dubé, was one of my guests on the show. So he's essentially South Africa's version of Bob Marley. And so I got to actually perform a song with him on a keyboard. You know, I was trying to play along, and he explained to me like one drop beats and how the keyboard is a major instrument in reggae because it's more distinct, and the guitar makes a different sound than it does in rock. And I was just so fascinated by that. Reggae became my favorite genre. As you'd imagine, reggae in Africa is very different than reggae in the United States. So I moved to Florida when I was 10. I got into American reggae, which at the time, the three biggest reggae acts were 311, No Doubt, and Sublime. And I was like, wow, this is like a very different kind of reggae, but it was cool. Like Sublime combined reggae with some Spanish music and some ska and stuff. Ska predated reggae. So I got into all that. I joined the Marines, continued to listen to Sublime and all those bands, and I got stationed out in Southern California. So this was probably back in like 2004. And at the time, I got into some bands there, Huntington Beach Sound, which became known as the Dirty Heads now. And I played in a bunch of bands. And so music up until then was a passion of mine. Unfortunately, in the Marines, I was injured in combat. So I ended up in a wheelchair and I lost the use of my right arm. So could no longer play guitar or piano. And I just kind of vegged out. I decided to focus on, like more of a desk job type of thing. I ended up going to law school, got a law degree, ended up joining the Peace Corps, became a legal advisor to the United States Department of State. Still had a huge passion for music. And I finally recently underwent like a bunch of surgeries, like 3 surgeries a year. But you can see now, like I have use of this arm again. It's like a bionic arm. I got an ulnar nerve transplant and all this other crazy stuff. But it actually allowed me to start playing guitar again. So I started playing guitar. I started making music. And I decided, I like two years ago, I said, I'm just going to focus on music full time, normal law, gave up the practice of law, decided to become a full-time musician. And now I'm finding out now like on social media and stuff, I've got fans reaching out to me and they're like, oh, we love your songs. Like, and it's just, it's mind boggling that like a dream come true is actually coming true.
So between the moments we were injured and the moment you went back to figuring out how to go back to music, how long did it take and what was the process?
It was a long time. I was injured in Operation Iraqi Freedom that same year, 2004. And I mean, like, I would say from 2004 to really like 2012-ish, I couldn't really walk. I was in a wheelchair. And well, the thing about talking about one of the reasons I joined this organization, and I know we'll get to it later in the interview, but the stigma with having a disability. So for me, when I first got out of the Marines, they diagnosed me with PTSD, and it wasn't really documented. I crushed my knee, essentially. I knee surgery, ended up with a blood clot, and it just chaos. Like I lost all the muscle in my right leg, spinal cord injuries, like broke my cervical spine and all that sort of stuff. So that's the reason I lost feeling. But when I got out, they diagnosed me with PTSD, and they were like, the conditions that they found out that I actually did have, like 15 years later, they said were psychological. They said I couldn't use my arms because I had depression and PTSD and stuff. And they never actually did nerve testing to find out where the disconnect was in the nerves. So it really took like complaining to in the United States is the Veterans Administration. So you go to these VA hospitals, and just like once a week I was in there just saying, I still can't write, I'm trying to go back to school and I can't use my right arm. And then be like, okay, we're going to switch your antidepressant. So they did that for like 10 years. That's one of the things that led me to go to law school. Part of going to law school, I found out that basically the way that the VA runs, I was able to challenge that. You can't really sue the VA because it's a department of the federal government in the United States, but I could challenge those sorts of things. So I started filing like cases against the VA, and I got outside medical opinions, and my case was that they should pay for this. I went to a private doctor. I got private nerve testing. Well, that whole thing took like 10 years of going through the court system and everything. So it wasn't until 2017, from 2004 to 2017, that I had the first surgery in my arm, where they replaced my ulnar nerve. which had basically been tied in a figure eight somehow. And they're not sure how exactly, just I guess going through the routine of training for years, and punching stuff like punching cement, and I just that sort of thing. Somehow the ulnar nerve was like tied in a knot, and leaving it that long, it damaged the nerve that it had to be replaced. So it took 2014, 2017 to actually start the surgery processes. And then they were like, well, that's not the only thing. We have to do carpal tunnel on both hands. We have to do spine surgery. We have to do knee surgery. We have to do abdominal surgeries. And it was crazy.
But you were still singing at this point, right?
Oh,
Singing.
I was. So the positive out of all this is that when I was a kid, I could play piano and guitar, drums and stuff, but I never imagined myself being a singer. Like I try to sing on my show, I try to carry a tune. Everyone said I was completely tone deaf, that I would never be able to sing. So because I was in a wheelchair, it kind of forced me to sing. I would try and emulate the notes on a guitar, because I'd be trying to explain to my friends who played guitar, like you should try and play this, but I couldn't show them how to play it. So I try to make the sounds with my mouth, for like 10 years of making these sounds. And finally, I guess I just figured out how to sing along the way.
I see. So when you came back to guitar, did you start immediately considering, oh, let's record something, let's do an album, something like that? Or did it take time?
It was, so when I was in high school, so I was about 16 or 17, I won the Battle of the Bands from my high school. I was considered like one of the best guitarists in South Florida at the time. This is like 2002. And when I picked up the guitar again, after like 15 years, it was basically from scratch. Like I could still remember the scales, I could still remember the chords, but to try and get my fingers to actually press down the strings was like brand new. The mind guitar connection, it is not like riding a bike, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. You need practice.
Yeah.
That's not a joke. Okay, and so you recorded. I know we are both part of ROMPT, and that's how I discovered your work. And on this on the profile, you posted a video, the song of the lizard.
Yeah.
And I started digging a little bit into what you were doing at this time. And what I found interesting was the graphical part. I mean, you were always having a playful way to represent the graphic, like the animated films that go with that, with these songs. And so can you talk a bit about what this whole process of these songs were, where you ended up combining some of your songs with some of the other artists, I think, singing on your album, and this animated graphics?
Yeah. It's essentially, I've always been a fan of like just funny cartoons. There's a channel on YouTube, I should say, that I was inspired by. It's called Mr. Weeble's Place, something like that. But he makes these funny cartoons. Like the most popular one goes like betcha, 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 betcha. And I thought, what if I could like make a funny cartoon like that, but make it reggae? So this particular one, it's my actual pet gecko. Her name's Jeku. I started singing to her. It's really how the song came about. Like I'd sing to her in the morning. I was like, Jeku is a lizard, and I just I started drawing her for some reason, and I was like, well, these drawings aren't too bad. I showed them to my friends. They're like, yeah, those are decent sketches. So I just decided to make the cartoon, which was immensely more difficult than I imagined. Like to actually animate a character whose arms are moving, or so in this case for the music video, I have a cricket who jumps on her. Her backup dancers are these ladybugs, and to actually get them to move was much more complicated than I thought. but it was fun. And so I had so talking about like social media, like people reaching out to me like we like your songs. I had one of the biggest reggae bands in the whole of the continent of Africa reached out to me. They're called African Reggae Machine. And they're like, we like your songs. They're fun. And we see that you're from Africa. You got like the African reggae feel and the American music and stuff. And there's another amazing artist, a reggae artist, originally from Kingston, Jamaica. He lives in Holland now. His name's Y Intel. He reached out. He's like, yeah, I'm a fan of your music. We should do a collaboration. So I just did a collaboration with both of them. So it's like a remix off that New Caledonia song where I've got the music video with them. We actually called it Jakku the Gecko song, and I'm about to try and make a better sort of music video to go along with this. Like that was my first attempt at drawing, and now that I know like what to expect with animating something that's moving, you know, I think I could do like a higher quality video the second time around.
And so you, there was not only one, right? You did a bunch of
and
songs.
And I did one for my dog, if you can see her.
Yeah.
She's here, but she is
Hi.
basically land piranha.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a song about her, and the music video is basically about her.
Okay.
And she's just running around terrorizing my friends and her pet sitters and stuff.
Yeah, we have influential pets in life. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Even your album covers of your EPs or of your singles have some graphic content on it, and that's you, right?
Yes, I draw all the artwork for all my songs. Again, much more complicated than I thought to actually sketch something and get it into the format that it could go on, like a cover art that can be printed or uploaded and let people can see it on their screens and stuff.
They're really beautiful. I really like.
Thank you.
There is for example, there is one of a drawing of a lady playing the guitar.
Yeah.
And this is wow. I really like your style.
Oh, well, thank you.
Okay, so what is in the news now? What are you working on right now?
So speaking of collaborations, I have a bunch of collaborations coming out between now through November, I want to say. So I'm going to have a song coming out about once every 2 to 3 weeks. And an album is coming out in 2 weeks from now. So it's my first actual album. The last thing I released was technically an EP, since it only had 5 songs in it. So this will be a full 12-song album. I took some of my most popular songs, and there'll be a few new ones on this album.
Is there a specific one that you really like on that new album?
I would say my favorite, I did a remix of Ziggy Marley's song Beach in Hawaii. So there's going to be a remix of that. I think it'll be the 12th song on the album. That'll probably be my personal favorite. Who
are the artists collaborating with you?
Let me think. In order, the first one is Sunburnt Sky. He's an awesome reggae artist out of Utah. Let's see. Next in order, I think is I mentioned Y Intel and African Reggae Machine, so that song Jakku will be on there. Who else? Juba White. I met him when I lived in the Pacific Northwest. So I just moved to Ohio. I used to live in the Portland or Oregon area, and there was this reggae artist who I performed with there, Juba White, also one of these OGs, like from Kingston, Jamaica, and now living in the Pacific Northwest. But he has a voice, in my opinion, that's on par with like Ziggy Marley. If not, now I don't want to dare say he's better than Ziggy Marley, but I would say we're working on a song, and the particular way that he sings it, I think, is better than a lot of Ziggy Marley songs. So I was blown away by him. Juba White is his name. He'll be on there. A reggae artist out of Southern California. His act is Summerlin Fields. he sounds just like Justin Timberlake, except a reggae version. But he's like has one of the most phenomenal voices I've ever heard out of anyone I've collaborated with. So also very excited for that song.
And any tours or any, are you going to do a promotion tour or series of concerts?
So unfortunately, I took a break from playing shows and stuff because from the surgeries I mentioned. I'm still healing up from a recent one. So unfortunately, I don't think there'll be any shows until the beginning of next year, 2025.
Okay. Well, tell us, right? We can announce that to
Yeah.
ArtsAbly auditors. Okay. I have a question about we were mentioning these healing processes and the fact to accept your disability and things like that. And with the years, you've learned how to adapt to your different needs and things like that in your artistic practices. And for me, it's something that is called visibility arts. And I was wondering if you could tell us what it is for you to work in that kind of field of visibility arts.
Well, I think so. I've been disabled since 2004, since I got out of the Marines. When I first got out, and I'm showing my age here. They used to call it handicap back then, which is kind of an offensive term. So they changed it to disabled. I still personally think like there's a lot of stigma with the word disabled, and it's taken me like 20 years to realize that there can be actual advantages to being disabled. So one of the advantages that I figured out that I have, I'm hard of hearing. I'm one of those people who use the 3M earplugs, which didn't work. I'm part of that whole class action. But when I got out of the Marines, they're like, you're very hard of hearing. I do actually use hearing aids. And I've been in a situation, I played a show where the sound tech on stage pulled my hearing aid out of my ear and started yelling at me. He's like, we have on-stage monitors, you don't need in-ears. And I was like, I wanted to yell at the guy like it's a hearing aid. And it's like a $10,000 hearing aid that he just yanked out of my ear. But what I figured out is that from being hard of hearing, it's allowed me to hear certain tones that most people can't hear, like specific bass tones and things that from people I collaborate with. Like I'll send them a mix that's adjusted to my hearing specifically. And when they hear the mix, they're like, I can hear like multiple bass tracks in this. And I'm like, yeah, well, there are multiple bass tracks in it. But I guess usually when people mix things, it's not mixed in a way that, they're accentuating certain tones that you'd hear in like a final mix. But for someone to sing over it, I was told that having these layered bass tracks is actually very helpful to them because well, reggae specifically, hip hop too, the vocals follow the bass line. So in all these other like beats these guys were getting, who they collaborated with, they were trying to guess where the notes were, or they're trying to emulate the guitar or piano. With my songs, they were emulating just the bass line because you could barely even hear the guitar, like the high tones in my mix. And they said that really helped them. So in a way, they call it disabled, but it's just, I think it's just different in a way. Yes, I'm hard of hearing certain tones, but I can also pay attention to other tones that I can hear.
Yeah. Plus with hearing aids today, there is no issue with connecting that in Bluetooth or
Yeah.
have some systems that would allow you to like fully integrate that into the existing system.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and then there was the part about regaining some mobility also
Yeah.
that must have impacted your way of playing, coming back to your own integration of all these instruments and your voice.
It has. I mean, I've gone from just it's essentially being in a wheelchair. Yes, sometimes on a good day, I could feel my legs. On a bad day, I couldn't feel them. Type of thing. So it varied. But now, just to be able to I don't know, like stand up at a mic is almost like a terrifying thing that I can now stand there the whole time. I can hold the guitar the whole time. Whereas before, you know, it was, I don't know. It's just, I feel like a kid again, like the best way to put it is regaining my mobility. It feels like I'm a kid. Like I'm like, can I stand for an hour? Can I stand for 2 hours? You know, it's like a test. And I'm finding out a lot of the times. I think the last show I played was in May, and I was up there for like two hours on stage. I could feel my legs the entire time, which was insane.
Yeah. Well, it's great. And it's going, so you're regaining and regaining, or is it fully regained now in your
No, it's not fully there. Unfortunately, same thing with my arm. Like the nerves in my back have been damaged for so long. You know, there's not a lot they can do with it, but what they are doing is I get a lot of rhizotomies, radio frequency ablation sort of things. And essentially and a little pack that basically interrupts electrical signals being carried out there, and from them doing that, that somehow stopped my legs from going numb. Like it's somehow by them blocking certain signals and allowing other signals to come through, you know, somehow that's working for me.
okay. Well, I have a last question, and this is about, we were talking about collaborations, and we were talking about artists with whom you have been discussing your music. But I was wondering if you had some, who are your inspirations? Who are the people who really counted in your journey as a musician? And if you have one or two names to give, who would it be and why?
For singing, I think my biggest influence is David Bowie. As a kid, and I should go back to when I was a kid. Like Lucky Dubé introduced me to reggae, but prior to that, I was a David Bowie fan for some reason. Like my friends at the time listened to, I don't know, like Michael Jackson and pop artists like that. It was back then, it was like the Michael Jackson, Prince sort of thing, and for some reason I liked David Bowie songs. And I think like when I was a little kid, I would try and sing his songs. And now, like most of my fans who reach out to me always say that I sing just like David Bowie for some reason. It could be the South African accent. And guitar wise, I personally think the best guitarist who's ever existed, and I know a lot of people get offended by this, is Jimi Hendrix. You know, I know people say, oh, there's better guitarists than Jimi Hendrix, there's better soloists than Jimi Hendrix. But I think the way that Jimi Hendrix played, he didn't just play solos, he would make his solo part of the song. And the way he wrote his solos was basically like words in the song that you would sing. So he would sing the entire song, you know, you got the entire song, and he would take some of the words out and replace that with guitar riffs. And that's the exact thing that I try to do in my songs, you know, which is extremely hard to try and convert you know, lyrics into guitar sounds. That you have to either be the best guitarist in the world or become the best guitarist in the world, because to really transcribe it, you know, like it might be I don't know, like a half a bend might actually be the lyric that someone's singing, because the way people sing, it's not just hitting specific notes. You know, you have all the sharps and flats in between just naturally with the voice. And he was able to mimic those exact sounds on his guitar. And for that, I just think that's something that I've been playing guitar. Let's see, like I would say prior to the Marines, when I hurt my arm, I was playing for about, I don't know, like 10 years. And then recently I've been playing, I mean, like 10 to 12 hours a day for the last 4 years. So I feel like that's a lot of hours invested in the guitar, and I still can't play like Jimi Hendrix. So think that those two guys are the biggest influences to me.
Well, thank you so much for this conversation. It was a pleasure talking with you today. And I wish you all the best for everything that you're doing right now.
Thank you.
And yeah, have a fantastic day and talk soon.
Thank you.
Bye.